Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode on the Sports Stories podcast. And now for this episode, I'm going to be going over my week one predictions for the NFL. You know, it's already that time. You know, you can smell it in the air. You know, college football just started Saturday. You know, it's inching closer. That's how you know when college football starts, it's inching closer to the NFL season, and we're almost here. Now today is Wednesday, September 7th, so tomorrow we have the first game of the season, which is going to be the Buffalo Bills versus the Rams, and I can't wait to see that one. Unfortunately, I will be working during that game, so I'm not going to be able to see the entire game, so I'm just going to have to watch the highlights on like YouTube or something, but I'm sure it's going to be an amazing game, so can't wait for that one. Obviously, can't wait for my Lions to play the Eagles, even though I think they're going to lose. But I still can't wait to see them actually in full form and get all the stars in there and everything, and can't wait to see them. And, you know, let me know down in the comments what your favorite team is and what you're excited for this season. I'm really excited just to see the NFL develop, especially from this off season. It was just amazing. So I honestly can't wait for the NFL season to start. So let's get right into these predictions. So now, obviously, the first game that I just talked about, the Buffalo Bills at Los Angeles to face off with the Rams. Now, I think this one's going to be a really good game. Now, the Bills coming off of a heartbreaking overtime loss in the divisional round, I want to say, divisional round against the Chiefs. And that one, I believe, won the game of the year at the ESPYs. I mean, that one was an amazing game to watch. Back and forth, that was an incredible game. They just lost the coin toss at the end. Chiefs take it down, score a touchdown. And the Bills have really upgraded their defense over the offseason, obviously getting Von Miller, which was a big addition. I think also getting Khair Alam, who's a rookie cornerback who I think is going to be really good in this league. They added him and just developed their defensive players. I think overall their defense is really good, and I think they're kind of getting into Super Bowl, form. Their offense is good. Nothing to really worry about there. Then on the Rams side of the ball, some question marks. So first of all, you got Matthew Stafford's elbow injury, which was kind of early on in training camp. So as of right now, Sean McVay says that everything looks fine. So he is expected to start in this game. So hopefully, he's all healthy and he's ready to throw the ball against the Bills on tomorrow on Thursday. And then also they have the loss of Odell Beckham Jr., who I think's gonna come back. There's a lot of question marks on Odell's status, as if he's gonna be joining the Rams or if he's going to another team. Obviously, the addition of Allen Robinson, which I think is gonna be great for the team, and then Cooper Kupp. Had an amazing season. I think he actually could have won MVP, but he won Offensive Player of the Year. You can't argue with that. He had a great season, won Super Bowl MVP. A lot of people think he's going to repeat the season that he had last year. Not to sound like a hater or anything, but I don't think he's going to have the same season. It's just because they added more targets for Matthew Stafford. Now, Matthew Stafford may be still going to Cooper Kupp as many times as he did in the previous season, but I'm, not too sure. So, I'll just leave it at that. I just don't think he's going to have the same season that he did last year, so I'm gonna just leave that there. And then the Rams defense, it's the Rams defense. New additions, Bobby Wagner, who I think is gonna be great. And I know I'm forgetting somebody, but we're just gonna keep it at Bobby Wagner, okay? Because I know I'm forgetting somebody on the defensive side of the ball. But Bobby Wagner, obviously the loss of Von Miller kind of hits the team a little hard, but obviously if you're getting Bobby Wagner in, that's another good linebacker, so you don't really have much to worry about there if you're on the Rams defensive side of the ball. So both teams are just powerhouses on the opposite sides of the ball. Bills offensive powerhouse, Rams defensive powerhouse. Now you can't argue about the Bills defense versus the Rams offense. I think that's a pretty good argument to have there. But as for this game, for the first game of the NFL season, I have the Bills taking it home. They're going into the Rams den over here. It's an away game for them, but I think it's the Bills here. I think the Bills are poised to be Super Bowl champions from interviews that I've seen with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs during the offseason. They're in Super Bowl mindset here. They know they can do it in the regular season. They know that they could possibly do it in the playoffs. They just want that Super Bowl, and I think they want it more than the Rams. So I think they're going to just play harder starting from week 1. This is going to be a great matchup to watch, but I got the Bills winning here. I think it's going to be really close. It's definitely going to be within a one-score game. I have the Bills winning by 3, 30-27. So I think it's going to be an interesting matchup, but let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Then next we have an in-division matchup here, the AFC South. We have the Colts at the Texans. Now this one I think is pretty straightforward to have the Colts winning this one. No disrespect to the Texans, okay? I mean, Damian Pierce looks great. I mean, he's a rookie running back. He looks great. I drafted him in one of my leagues. So I think he's going to be pretty good. Davis Mills starting at quarterback. We kind of saw a little bit of that last season. I guess just not much to say about the Texans. I can't wait to see Derek Stingley, though, their rookie cornerback coming out of LSU, who has had some injury problems, but he's still a really great cornerback when he is healthy, so I can't wait to see him out there on the field. Then as for the Colts, the new addition, Matt Ryan, who I think is going to be pretty good for the team. Definitely a better quarterback than Carson Wentz, in my opinion. Even, with the gap in age, I think Matt Ryan is definitely a better quarterback than Carson Wentz. Also, I think he's going to be a better pairing for Michael Pittman Jr., who is kind of on a rise here. If you played fantasy, Michael Pittman, I think he's going to be a great wide receiver this season. And obviously Jonathan Taylor, the rushing leader this season. I think he's going to have another great season. Can't wait to see him out there on the field. The Colts offensive line is awesome. The Colts defense is really good. So overall, I think the Colts have a really good team. They have a really good unit, and they could possibly make it into the playoffs. Just last year, they choked that last game against the Jaguars for the playoffs. They lost, and that kind of costed them a playoff spot. But they are going into this season, I think, a better team. So I think they'll definitely have a playoff slot there for the AFC, possibly. But yeah, for this game, I think it's pretty easy, pretty straightforward to say that the Colts will beat the Texans. Now, next we have the Browns at the Panthers. Okay, this one's got a headliner on it. Baker Mayfield, the starting quarterback of the Panthers, obviously was, with the Browns. The Browns, then traded for Deshaun Watson. This Deshaun Watson case is going on right now, but he has been sentenced to, I believe, a 11 game suspension, I want to say, but I believe the NFL is also fighting for an indefinite suspension. So that one is still up in the air as of right now, I want to say. But don't take my word for it on that. But I definitely know Deshaun Watson is going to be out for the majority of the season for the Browns, so they are going to be starting Jacoby Brissett, I want to say. Jacoby Brissett has kind of proven that he can be a starter in this league. He was a brief starter there for the Colts a few seasons ago, and he wasn't the worst quarterback, so I'll give it to him there. So I think the Browns have a quarterback they can work with. But yeah, Baker Mayfield was still on the team, and there were talks of a trade going on. He wanted to be traded mainly because they just got their competition, and obviously they just weren't happy with his performance. And I feel like it was more of a mutual trade, or I guess not mutual trade. I think Baker Mayfield's still pretty mad at the Browns, but I think it would just work better for both teams if they traded him. Not for the Browns exactly, because the Browns kind of need a quarterback, but for some reason they're just like, yeah, nah. So Baker Mayfield, they shipped him over to the Panthers, and now he's starting quarterback for the Panthers, and he looked actually really good in the preseason with the scheme that they had there. And Baker Mayfield has been quoted as saying that they're gonna mess the Browns up. So he's looking out for some revenge. Okay, now the Browns, obviously, quarterback spot is kind of a question mark. Jacoby Brissett's decent. But obviously that rushing attack, Nick Chubb, I think he's going to go off this season, mainly because they don't have a passing attack. So they're really going to be running, and Nick Chubb, I think is going to be a beast. I have him on a couple of my fantasy teams. I think he's going to be great. And then the wide receiver core isn't the best for the Browns. You got Donovan Peoples-Jones, who I think is going to be a pretty good target this season, or somebody that's going to get the majority of the targets since Jarvis Landry's departure, and they just don't really have that many wide receivers that you can really depend on. So trust me, if you have Nick Chubb in your fantasy spot, you better hope that he does not get injured, because they're probably rushing him like 200 times a game, because that passing attack is not going to do anything. So you got Nick Chubb. Offensive line is pretty decent. Decent at best, I want to say. The offensive line isn't the best, but they can hold their own. So, Nick Chubb, definitely a person to watch out for. If you still haven't done your fantasy draft yet, definitely get Nick Chubb. But if you do have Nick Chubb on your team, you should be excited to have him, because I think he's going to get a lot of points this season. And then going over to the Panthers, obviously getting Baker Mayfield was a big help. I think he's definitely a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. And then you have Christian McCaffrey coming back pretty healthy. Now talking about the teams, I should probably change my prediction, because I had the Browns winning and it was within 3. But now I'm thinking about the teams here. I'm like, I don't know if I should give it to the Browns. So I might have to give it to the Panthers on this one, because they got Christian McCaffrey back there in the backfield. Baker Mayfield and Christian McCaffrey, I think, is going to be great. Baker Mayfield going from one great running back to another great running back. And I think the play action scheme is going to do wonders for the Panthers this season. I mean, you have Baker Mayfield, who can throw. He can throw. He's proven that. And then obviously Christian McCaffrey, who's one of the greatest running backs in the league. If he wasn't injured for the past 2 seasons, he could arguably be the best running back in the league right now. It would have been an argument, actually. I think he would have been the best if he hadn't been injured for the past 2 seasons. Because in one season he literally got 1,000 receiving yards and 1,000 rushing yards. That's no easy feat. So I think he definitely would be a great running back, the greatest running back in the league if he wasn't injured. So they got him back healthy. That's great news there. And then obviously the wide receiver core, DJ Moore, great wide receiver. He had a great season last year, and I can't wait for him to do good. I have him on a couple of my fantasy teams as well, so can't wait. I need him to do good. And then there is a question mark on Robbie Anderson, mainly because of the kind of drama that happened with him possibly not wanting Baker Mayfield. But from the reports that I've heard, it is pretty good. There's decent chemistry there. There's any hatred there or anything. So, should be good. And I think that's about it for the Panthers offense. They got Ikem Ekwonu, I want to say. Yeah, they got Ikem Ekwonu this draft, so I can't wait to see him. From what I saw in the preseason, he's not the worst. I think he just needs to improve. He's still a rookie. Rookie offensive linemen are kind of iffy. There's not a lot of gray space there. They're either great or they're not so great. So in one example, Quentin Nelson did good in his rookie year with the Colts, and then on the opposite side of the spectrum, you got Alex Leatherwood on the Raiders. And me as a Raiders fan, I had to see Alex Leatherwood there, and he was not a great offensive lineman. So there isn't a lot of gray space for an offensive lineman in the league. So new one at least. So I think he just needs some help there, but we'll start to see him in actual play, especially after this preseason. And then going on to the Panthers' defensive side of the ball, overall, it's okay. It's an okay defense. I don't think it's the best, or quite the best, but I think they're still good. I want to say that they have Stephon Gilmore. Don't quote me on that because I'm tripping. I don't know because I feel like he's on the Panthers or he's on the Colts, and I've seen him on both. Like I don't know. I have to see here. This year. Hold on. I feel like he's on the Colts though. Yeah, he's on the Colts. So he's on the Panthers. He was on the Panthers. That's why he was on the Panthers after the Patriots. So he's with the Colts. So totally ignore that. But the Panthers have a pretty good defense. I wouldn't say anything special. So it's just pretty average defense there. Now overall, I just hit the mic. But overall, I think it's gonna be a pretty good matchup. But Baker Mayfield's going out there for blood, and like I said before, I had Cleveland winning this one, in my opinion. But just looking at the teams just matched up together, I might have to give this one over to Carolina, just because they just look like a better team. I think it is going to be a close one. But yeah, I just don't see it going too well for the Browns. So I got the Panthers winning this one. Now next, I have the Eagles at the Lions. Now this one, as much as I want the Lions to win, as a Lions fan, I'm like, okay, I want them to win. This Hard Knocks show has gotten me hyped up for the season. I'm like, okay, you got Rodrigo, you got a stellar defense, and a stellar offense. But truth is, matchup to the Eagles it's wraps. Okay, it's wraps. Let's be honest. Okay, the Eagles played the Lions last season, absolutely whooped them like 40-17. Okay, and that was Jalen Hurts without AJ Brown. They had Devonta Smith and, the rest of the wide receiver core. Jalen Reagor that was there. But they didn't have AJ Brown, and they still whipped their team. They still whipped the Lions. So it was a tough one. I think I stopped watching that game like through halftime. So yeah. So basically, I don't think that the Lions will win. Still think it'll be close. I think it'll be within a touch. I think it's gonna be a 7-point game. But I mean, the Eagles' offense I already said the trade for AJ Brown during the draft was a big step in helping their offense, and especially helping Jalen Hurts, who is a really young quarterback, and he just needs more help. So give him that, and it was at a decently cheap price. They just traded away their pick, so basically it was just Traylon Burks for AJ Brown. You could just say that. So it wasn't too bad. So I think it was a great trade on the Eagles' end. And then Jalen Hurts just looks like he's ready. Saw him bulked up during practice or training camp. He's getting there. Running back, little bit questionable. You still got Miles Sanders. I think he's a great running back. Kenneth Gainwell, who's a great backup running back, and a sleeper pick. A good depth running back to have in your fantasy team. If you don't really know, you didn't get the best running backs. Kenneth Gainwell isn't that bad of a pick. So consider him there on your lineup. And then wide receiver also, you get Devonta Smith here, who had a really great rookie season, and I think he's going to just progress from there. Obviously, the trade with Jalen Reagor doesn't really hurt the team that much. Let's be honest. Jalen Reagor, I think the Eagles just kind of gave up on Jalen Reagor. I think he has promise. I think the Vikings can make something out of Jalen Reagor, but it just looks like the Eagles kind of gave up on him there, so they traded him away. And looking at the Eagles' defense, it's pretty normal. Nothing really too new. Nothing really big on the defensive side of the ball. Their defense wasn't the worst either. So expect the same performance from the Eagles' defense, in my opinion. Now going over to the Lions side of the ball. Now at quarterback, got the best quarterback in the league, Jared Goff. He's definitely the best quarterback. He's not bad at all. There's no flaws in his game whatsoever. So we got Jared Goff. And then we have DeAndre Swift as starting running back. The star of Detroit, I want to say. The star of Detroit is DeAndre Swift. He's just amazing, Sure, he gets injured like always halfway through the season, but he's that guy. He's that guy. Number 2, you got Jamal Williams. Power back, fun guy. I mean, he's a good player. He's a good player. And it just looks like he's gotten better over the offseason, so can't wait to see him play. And then at 3, if you did watch Hard Knocks, they got Craig Reynolds, who I think is a really good running back. Now, he did play last season on the Lions, and he's a really good finesse running back. He's kind of a flex running back. He does good just on all downs, so I can't wait to see him play out there. He's definitely a fan favorite in Detroit. And then wide receiver core, you got Amon-Ra St. Brown, which was really high on everybody's fantasy boards. He took the league by storm really late into the season, and he was just going absolutely off. And then DJ Shark, coming from Jacksonville, I think he's going to be really good. If they can just tap into what he had just a few seasons ago with Jacksonville, I think they're going to have a great wide receiver. And I believe they'll probably have Tom Kennedy out there. Hopefully Khalif Raymond's out there. And yeah, I mean, that's really about it. They just have really good depth guys that not that many people know. So we'll just leave Amon-Ra and DJ Shark there. Jameson Williams is going to be out for at least 4 games this season, but I do see him probably coming back by week 8, or at least his first game is probably going to be by week 8, and I think it's going to be great. So I can't wait to see him this season as well. And then offensive line, pretty decent. I think when they're all healthy, all there together, it's going to be great. Penei Sewell had a great rookie season last year, and I think he's going to be even better. So can't wait to see them play. And then on the defensive side of the ball, not much to report on besides Aiden Hutchinson, their number 2 overall pick in this draft, and he looked great in the preseason, so I can't wait to see him be out there wrecking dudes on the offensive line. It's going to be great to see. Now, I mean, with my heart is like, I just want to go with the Lions, for a week 1 win to start off the season, set the tone for the Lions season, being one of the best. I mean, a playoff team last year, okay? The Eagles were a playoff team last year. Let's get that straight. But it's, the Eagles look good. They look a little scary to me. So I'm going to have to give the Eagles the win here, 26-19. I think it's going to be a 7-point game, but don't count out the Lions, but I feel like the Lions are probably gonna get most of their points in garbage time. Let's be honest. So, I think the Eagles will win. It's just they're just a great team, and they do have playoff hopes. I think they will win the NFC East this season. Now, I dropped my pencil here. But now next I have the 49ers at the Bears. Now the 49ers, some pretty big news coming out before the season. Now, the 49ers did re-sign or restructure Jimmy Garoppolo's deal, and they are still keeping him. From the looks of it, it doesn't look like they are going to trade him. I think the main consensus, at least from Trey Lance's camp and just Trey Lance himself, and the team, after they named him starter, they were going to try and ship off Jimmy Garoppolo, but it looks like they most likely either couldn't get an offer or not an offer good enough for them, so they decided to keep Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, they aren't starting him from the looks of it. From some reports, he was annoyed, which, I mean, I'm sure probably the 49ers are like, yeah, we're probably going to try and ship off Jimmy G. You're the starter. You're going to, have the reins here. And then to get the news that they kind of re-sign him and keep him on the team, obviously he's not going to be the best. Like, he's not going to take the news the best. So, obviously, I don't know why that's such a big news. I mean, if somebody's behind you, right, and there's a good chance that they might take your job, obviously you're going to be pretty mad. So I can't blame him there. So I think he's gonna be a great starter though. I think last year after the draft, I said that Trey Lance would be the first quarterback out of the rookie class to make it to a Super Bowl. So he still has time. Mac Jones made it to the playoffs first, sure. But I think overall he is the quarterback that will make it to the Super Bowl first. I think he just has a better team. Then going to the running back situation, not the best, but Elijah Mitchell's still a really good running back. I wouldn't count him out. If you draft him in fantasy, I think he's going to be a great running back. And then wide receiver core, obviously you got Deebo Samuel, who came off a monstrous season last year. Now you're probably not going to get as many points from him in fantasy this season, mainly due to him not wanting to run the ball anymore, just due to that high injury risk at the running back position, and kind of puts his career at jeopardy. So I think he's just going to be mainly taking targets at wide receivers. So can't wait to see him out there. Brandon Ayuk, who's going to be a great wide receiver. I'm going to just leave it there because I don't know any more 49ers wide receivers. And then offensive line looks good. So 49ers offense is pretty complete. The defensive side of the ball, they got Nick Bosa, Fred Warner still there, just to name a few players, or just a couple players on there. So I think the 49ers still have here. I mean, they basically kept the same team. They didn't really make any blockbuster additions. And I mean, they made it to the playoffs last season and almost made it to the Super Bowl. So I think the 49ers could make another run here in the playoffs. So they have a really good team. Then going on to the Bears, I think they're going to have the worst season in the league. I think they're going to have the number one pick by the time the season is at the end, okay? Because the Bears, they have literally done nothing, okay? Nothing to help Justin Fields, man, okay? He had a decent rookie year, okay? He looked good. He looked like QB1. There's no question about if he's going to be a bust, okay? I mean, or maybe. There's some questions, I guess you could say. It's arguable that he could be a bust, mainly just because he's on the Bears. Because he just looks like a great player, so it could just be the Bears' fault that he's a bust, okay? Then they added completely no wide receivers, no protection, no running game. They just kept the same offense. No additions. I apparently the front office thinks that offense is amazing. They don't need to add anything. So Justin Fields is there. Running back, I want to say is David Montgomery, who's a great running back. Okay, he's still a great running back. I think he's pretty big sleeper in fantasy, like every year, and he's still good. So sorry. I think he's gonna be a good player. Wide receiver, really the only notable wide receiver is Darnell Mooney. They lost Allen Robinson to the Rams. So yeah, they're just not helping Justin Fields there. So Darnell Mooney, David Montgomery, and Justin Fields are probably the best three players on the offense. And the offensive line is pretty horrendous. They did nothing to upgrade that either. So, or at least nothing big. So it's gonna be a tough season for Justin Fields. Let's just say that. There could be a good chance that he gets injured this season, mainly just because of the offensive line. Yeah, I put him in like that for that rookie year Joe Burrow. That's gonna be Justin Fields because Burrow's getting hit around this season. The offensive line is not good whatsoever. And then going over to the defensive side of the ball for the Bears, decent. They obviously lost Khalil Mack to the Chargers, so that's going to be a big hit to the defense. But other than that, not much. Roquan Smith was trying to get out, but the NFL kind of just blocked him. They were like, "No, you're not going to another another team," mainly because they could consider it tampering since Roquan Smith is representing himself. He does not have an agent, so teams will not be able to talk to him without it being considered tampering, because even though he is still his own agent, he is still the player, and you can't really talk to the player to really get him to any team, which is against the NFL rules. So with tampering. So they kind of just blocked him from getting anywhere. So looks like Roquan Smith is going to be a free agent after the season. But other than that, the Bears defense is okay at best. So as for this game, I think it's pretty straightforward that the 49ers are going to win. I just don't see that much competition. I think it's still going to be a pretty close game. I have San Francisco winning 24-18. I think the Bears will have some fight in there, but I'm not sure. Okay, the Bears just are the Bears. So maybe I'm just hating on the Bears. Maybe I'm just hating, but I got 49ers winning this one. Now next we have the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Washington Commanders. And that's the first season for Washington as the Commanders. Their jerseys are pretty ugly, if I do say so myself. But I actually kind of like the red ones. The red fit is pretty good. It's like, the red helmet, red jersey, red pants, mostly red shoes. I like it. Okay, the black jersey, like I just want it to work so well because I just like black jerseys, but it just doesn't work. And then the white one's not good. I want to say they had a camo one, and that one was not good. So Commanders, pretty decent name. So people call them the commies, but I think they got some promise. Okay, they got some promise. Now looking at the offensive side of the ball for Washington, they got Carson Wentz. They signed him from the Colts, or did they trade him? They might have traded him, but traded for him. But I think the Commanders definitely get. Or I'm actually not sure if they got an upgrade at quarterback, because Taylor Heineke, I think he's just a fan favorite in the NFL. So I think he's a great player. And it's just kind of question is Carson Wentz the better quarterback? And I think we're going to see that over the course of the season. And if he's not, I feel like the Commanders will try to force Carson Wentz to play the entire season, even if he is super bad, mainly just because, it's just, like what Taylor Heineke said in a press conference, you're paying one guy $30 million and one guy $3,000. Or, it's not the exact quote, but it was along those lines. They're paying Carson Wentz a lot of money, and they're paying Taylor Heineke not that much money to play. So you weigh your options, and you gotta start the dude that you're paying the most. So you're probably gonna start Carson Wentz, and he's not the worst quarterback in the league, and I think he can make something work. Then at running back, they just named Brian Robinson the starter, who I think is gonna be a great player. Unfortunately, he did get shot in that attempted car robbery, but luckily he is okay and he is out of the hospital, and all his wounds are healed, but it does look like he is doubtful to start week 1. I'm pretty sure. I think Ron Rivera said that he's not going to, but there's still some question marks there if he will. There is a possibility that he's a game time decision, but as of right now on ESPN they are labeling him as doubtful. So I think next in the depth chart would be J.D. McKissick, who's a great receiving back. So I think the Commanders have a pretty good 2 running back core, and then the offensive line isn't the best. I won't really expect much from them this season on the offensive line. Then going over to the defense, obviously Chase Young, who everybody can't wait to see after having that ACL tear pretty early on last year, but he did go to a camp just a few days ago, and then he re-aggravated his ACL. Now I'm not sure if it's a total re-injury of his ACL, but because so far I'm just seeing that he just re-aggravated it, so it doesn't look like he's going to be playing in week 1, mainly just due to that, because it is kind of iffy, the ACL injury. So I think they're just going to wait for him to get healthy and back up, so he's definitely not going to be starting week 1. But the defense isn't that bad. And I wouldn't expect much from them this season though, but they don't look too bad. And going over to the Jaguars, their offense, Trevor Lawrence going to his second year without a terrible head coach. They had Urban Meyer last season for like half the season. They're like, yeah, no, you're out of here. Go back to college, okay? because obviously you can't do it. And it just was kind of a joke. Okay, it was a joke. Let's be honest. Okay, Urban Meyer coaching the Jacksonville Jaguars was not good. It was not a good experience for anybody. And I think now with Doug Peterson as coach, I think it's gonna be great for Trevor Lawrence. You saw what he did with Carson Wentz first couple years there with Philadelphia. I think he could make a better quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, and actually a coach that knows the NFL. And then running back, you got James Robinson, who I think is a really good running back, as well as Travis Etienne. I'm not sure. I believe they are starting Robinson first. I want to say they are starting Robinson this first week here. Travis Etienne missed out last season due to tearing his Achilles, I want to say, and in training camp, so then he wasn't able to play, but he is able to play this season. I can't wait to see him. He's a really promising running back. And then at the wide receiver spot, they did lose DJ Shark, but they got Christian Kirk on a pretty big deal, pretty hefty deal. And I think it's about time that Christian Kirk gets the respect that he deserves. Okay, he was doing his thing in Arizona, and I think he's going to be great with Jacksonville. So can't wait for him to play there. I think he's going to be a number one target. At tight end, they got Evan Ingram, who I think is going to be great. He had some flashes with New York. I just think it just wasn't the greatest system there. So hopefully he can, do his thing with Jacksonville and kind of show why he was such a great running back his first couple years in the league. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Josh Allen, I think, is going to be a really big driver in that defense. He was great. He was great last season. So can't wait to see him out there. But I think that's it for the most part on the Jacksonville Jaguars defense. And they didn't really add much there. They were mainly just adding to the offense, which I think is something that the Bears should have done. Because I mean, you're surrounding a young quarterback with a lot of talent, and he's still learning. So you can kind of form his play style to these great players. So can't wait to see what they do there in Jacksonville. But as for this game, I have Washington taking it here at home. They got home field advantage. I got Washington winning this one 20-15 for the Commanders. First win in the organization. Now next, we have the Patriots at the Dolphins. Now the Patriots didn't really add much to their roster. They just kind of were pulling out the weeds of the roster. Their defense should be coming back healthy. Their offense basically stayed the same. They added Devontae Parker, who I didn't even know that they added him until, or I forgot that they added him until the preseason because I saw him playing, and I was like, oh, they have Devontae Parker. But I think he's a great wide receiver. He can do some things. He had a great run with Miami, so I can't wait to see him with the Patriots. And obviously Nelson Aguilar, I believe, is still on the team. So the Patriots have a team. And yeah, they just didn't really take anything too big away from the team, and they didn't really add anything that big to the team. So overall, I think they're going to be a pretty regular team, kind of what you'd expect from last season. And then going over to the Dolphins roster, we have Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback, who I think is going to have a pretty great season, mainly because he's being paired with Tyreek Hill. Okay, that trade that they made for Tyreek Hill was amazing, and I think that can only progress Tagovailoa's play throughout the season. So I can't wait to see him or them to in the regular season. Obviously, Jaden Waddle coming off a really good rookie season, and I think he's going to do wonders this season as well. So can't wait to see him play. And then at running back's kind of a question mark. I believe they're going to be starting Chase Edmonds, I want to say, since they just signed him. But I'm not too sure they're going to be starting at running back, but I want to say Chase Edmonds is going to be starting. And then at offense line, pretty decent, pretty good. And the defensive side of the ball, Not much. Maybe just Xavier Howard. I know Xavier Howard is trying to get out of there during the offseason. But they just restructured his deal and made him one of the highest paid cornerbacks in the league. But Xavier Howard's pretty decent, and I think he's probably just the best player on that defensive side of the ball. But as for this game, I have the Patriots winning. I think Mac Jones is gonna have another good season. I think he's gonna be a top quarterback in this league, possibly top 20. I think he's gonna be pretty good, maybe top 15. I think he's just going to continue that run that he had last season, where they made it to the playoffs. Yeah, I think he can only really progress from there. So, as for this one, I have the Patriots winning 27-20. Okay, and next we have the Steelers at the Bengals. Okay, now the Steelers, offensive side of the ball, let's look there. They're starting Mitch Trubisky. That one kind of hurt me, because Kenny Pickett looks like an absolute beast in the preseason. But I think the Steelers' main goal is to just go for who has the most experience, and that is Mitch Trubisky. So they're probably gonna start Mitch Trubisky, find out that he's trash by week 3, and put Kenny Pickett in. Let's be honest, okay? Because Mitch Trubisky is Mitch Trubisky. And as a Lions fan, I've seen Mitch Trubisky play. And somehow the Bears still beat the Lions, but let's just say it's not definitely off the back of Mitch Trubisky, okay? So maybe they see the promise that he had his rookie season, and maybe that's why they want to put him in, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see what they're going to do at quarterback. I think that's going to be a developing storyline during the season. And then at running back, I think they're going to have, I know they're going to have Najee Harris there. And Najee Harris, I think, is going to be the best running back in the league this season. I think he's going to actually lead in rushing yards this year. So I think if you have him on your fantasy team, I think it's going to be great. There's just so much promise there in his rookie season. And I think he almost cracked 1,000 yards, I want to say. So, and it just looks like he's only been getting better during the offseason. So can't wait to see him play out there. I think he's going to be a great player. And then wide receiver core, you got Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool and George Pickens, who I think is a great fit for the roster. Obviously a very intimidating player. The loss of Juju Smith-Schuster at wide receiver definitely hurt them a lot. But I think they still have a really solid wide receiver core for either Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett to pass to. And the offensive line is still really good. It's just going to be their first season without Ben Roethlisberger at the helm in about over 10 years. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do there in the system. And then at defense, their defense is still pretty good. I believe that they still have Minka Fitzpatrick. The defense side of the ball, I think overall is pretty good. It's not the worst. So we'll have to see what they do there. And then as for the Bengals, the Bengals coming off Super Bowl. They lost, but they still made the Super Bowl when nobody thought they would. So kudos to them. It was a great season for the Bengals. They're gonna have Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty, Joe Burr. I think he's gonna be great. Okay, I think he's gonna be a great quarterback, not wide receiver. I think he's gonna be a great quarterback. Running back, they got Joe Mixon, so they got both Joes in the backfield, 2 Joes in the backfield for the Bengals. I think it's gonna be great. Okay, wide receiver, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. Can't go wrong. They basically have the same returning cast. They didn't really lose anybody on the defense side of the ball. They still got Hendrickson, I want to say. Am I tripping? I might be tripping, but I want to say they have Hendrickson, or I'm definitely getting his name wrong. But they got that nose tackle, and he's good. Okay. Corner. Actually, let's talk about the safety position though. Jesse Bates and Dax Hill are gonna be great. Okay. As a Michigan fan, I've watched Hill play, and he's a great player. Preseason, he looked like a great player. I think he's gonna a great player to pair alongside Jesse Bates. I think Jesse Bates just needs some help on that defensive side of the ball in the secondary, and I think Daxton Hill is the best pick for that. So I can't wait to see the Bengals play this season, mainly because they have a Michigan player on their roster. So for this game, I have the Bengals taking it here. 26-20. I think it's still going to be a one-score game. I want the Bengals to prove something to me, okay? I just had that video on Super Bowl hangover recently, and the Bengals are my next team to make it on that Super Bowl hangover list. So I need the Bengals to prove to me that they can still make it back to the playoffs in the AFC and still have a good record and play out there. So I still need them to prove something to me. The Steelers, I think, Mike Tomlin as head coach, you can't go wrong. So I think they can definitely make some magic there. Just keep it at least within a one-score game. So I can't wait for the Bengals to play. It's going to be great. And I got the Bengals winning this one. Now, next up, we have the Ravens at the Jets. Now, the Ravens, I think pretty straightforward. The Ravens are probably gonna win this one. Let's be honest. Now we have quarterback Lamar Jackson for the Ravens, and I think he's gonna be great. He's coming back from injury, so I think he's still gonna be a great player. And then going in at running back, you have most likely they're going to be starting J.K. Dobbins and then backup Gus Edwards. I think they're a really great running back duo before both of them got injured. So I think overall the Ravens have a really good set running back core, or at least in their backfield, and quarterback, running back, I think is both great. Wide receiver core though, Lamar Jackson has absolutely no wide receivers. Okay, there's nobody good. Okay. Nobody notable on the. They had Marquise Brown and they traded him away to the Cardinals, and they didn't really draft a big name wide receiver, mainly because their picks were kind of late, and all the wide receivers were taken. But I mean, they still have no wide receivers. They didn't even go after one during the offseason or free agency. They were like, no. So I don't know what they were doing there. Offensive line is great. I think hopefully they can just protect Lamar a little bit better, even though he's more of he has a tendency to scramble, so it's gonna be a little bit harder to keep him healthy. But I think he's still gonna be a great quarterback. Defensive side of the ball, they're getting all their defensive players back healthy. I think it's gonna be great. Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, those are two great defenders that they definitely need. Their defensive line will be great, healthy. Okay, let's backtrack over to offense. They do have Mark Andrews. So if you do have Mark Andrews on a fantasy team, he's probably going to be great because he's probably going to be the number one target because the Ravens have no wide receivers. But back to the defense, the secondary has an upgrade in Kyle Hamilton, who was great in college at Notre Dame, and he looks great in the preseason. So can't wait to see him play. He looks like an electrifying player. He looks smart. He has high IQ. So can't wait to see him play there at safety. So overall, that secondary is going to be boosted, and I think overall the Ravens are going to have a really good defense. So watch out for them. But as for the offense, there's some question marks there. But against the Jets, I don't think they're going to have much of a problem. Heading over to the Jets side of the ball, quarterback. Now you would usually say that they have Zach Wilson, but I can't remember what injury Zach Wilson did have, but he had somewhat of an leg injury, I want to say, or a knee injury. It was a knee injury, but it wasn't a torn ACL, I want to say. I think it was a high knee sprain, just a knee sprain. Not really too sure. Can't think of it off the top of my head, but he's definitely not going to be starting week 1. I think they have him out. So now Joe Flacco is going to be starting this game, and as much as I want to say Joe Flacco is good, he's kind of past his prime. So, Joe Flacco is still, he has IQ, so I think he's still going to be good, but he's definitely past his prime. Then our running back, they got Michael Carter, who I think was great last year in fantasy, and I think he's going to be pretty great this season. I think he has some pretty good potential. And then a wide receiver, they have Elijah Mitchell, who is really great. He had a great rookie season last year, so I can't wait to see him play this season. Braxton Berrios, which was a big fan favorite, even outside of the Jets the Jets fandom. Braxton Berrios is fan favorite there. But that's about it for the receiving core. And then offensive line, I don't think is the best. They didn't do the best with protecting Zach Wilson last season, so I'm not sure how well they're gonna do, especially against a Ravens defense, which is really good. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they don't really have much. They did bring in Ahmad Sauce Gardner, who I think is going to be a great defensive back. A lot of people are saying that he could be Defensive Rookie of the Year, but as a Lions fan, it's obviously going to go to Aiden Hutchinson. But Sauce Gardner is a really great player, so I think that's a great addition to their defense that they definitely need. So, kudos to the Jets with drafting him in their first round. So I think the Jets have a young team that can do something. That I think they just need a few years to rebuild, but they are definitely not winning this game. I got Baltimore winning 23-18. I know it is a little bit close. I just had, the score is pretty close, just to save myself if a team just end up winning. I'm like, oh, well, it was close for me. So, I had a nice shoe in, okay? So, that's why some of the scores are pretty close, but I think the Ravens are definitely running away with this game. Then next, we have the Saints at the Falcons. Now, the Saints, big loss of head coach with Sean Payton being gone. That's gonna be a big hit to them, mainly because he was such a great coach. He was there during the Drew Brees regime, and he just didn't stay too long after that. But he was still pretty good. But at quarterback, they're gonna have Jameis Winston, who came last year. He had a pretty good season before tearing his ACL, so I'm pretty hopeful for his season. I think everybody kind of wants him to win, just because he's a good personality. But I still don't think he's the worst quarterback in the league, and I think he has a lot of progressing that he can do with the Saints. Then coming in at running back, I believe is going to be Mark Ingram. Alvin Kamara most likely is going. I think he was suspended 6 games, I want to say, for the assault case they had in Las Vegas during the Pro Bowl. So, I don't think he's going to be in for this game, obviously. So I think backup, I want to say, is Mark Ingram. I think because they signed him after the Alvin Kamara suspension. So I want to say Mark Ingram will be starting for this game. Which, again, he's another player kind of past his prime, but I still think he can do his thing just because of his experience. And then wide receiver, I believe Michael Thomas is questionable for the game. Not sure if they're going to be putting him in. Depends on if they, want him to go in or not, because they did place him on the PUP list. And so I'm not sure if he's not going to be playing for 4 weeks or if he's just going to be, game time decision. And then obviously Chris Olave for their rookie. He looked pretty good in the preseason, and I think he's going to be a pretty good target for Jameis Winston this season, so can't wait for that. The offensive line's pretty decent for the Saints, and then on the defense side of the ball, their defense is pretty good. Marshawn Lattimore is still there, and he's a really great cornerback, but they did lose C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who was a great DB. I guess not a great DB, but he was a good DB to have there on defense. He did his thing, but they did trade him away to the Eagles, which I forgot to say that on the Eagles versus Lions breakdown. I forgot to say that they had C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I forgot that they had him, but now I just remembered. But yeah, that one was a big trade. Not a lot of people expected that. I thought they were going to keep him, but instead shipped him off. And so I think overall, the Saints kind of had the same team that they did last year. There are some major hits and some major question marks for the team, and we'll have to see what they do from there. But I mean, it's going to be exciting to see them kind of without Drew Brees, without Sean Payton, without a lot of these major players that were there. Obviously defense, I mean, they had Cameron Jordan, so I mean, I think he's going to be great. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see because there just are so many question marks with the Saints offense and overall just the team, mainly because of these big changes that have been happening. So I can't wait to see what they do this season. And then as for the Falcons, on the offensive side of the ball, they lose Matt Ryan, from him going to the Colts. But they do have Marcus Mariota coming in from free agency after his stint with the Raiders. Now they did run him as starter in the preseason. I believe they are starting Marcus Mariota as of right now. But they did draft Desmond Ridder in the draft this season this past offseason. So I think he's going to be great. He did show a lot of promise in the preseason. So I think he's gonna do his thing. And he's a great player. He's a great player, great quarterback. He looks like he already has a high IQ. His time in Cincinnati was great. So overall, I can't wait for him to play. A lot of people are saying that he is the best quarterback in this draft class. So can't wait to see him play when he does get his chance. But as of right now, it looks like they are starting Marcus Mariota. And then at running back, I believe that they are going to be starting Cordell Patterson, who is a great player. He showed a lot of what he can do last season, both playing at running back and wide receiver, kind of like Deebo Samuel. He did receive most of his snaps at running back, and which he was really good. And I believe they also have Allegier. I can't say his name. Allegier or Allegier. But I want to say it's Allegier, but I could be completely wrong. And then at wide receiver, they have Drake London coming out of the draft. He did come off a little bit of an injury there against the Lions, but I think they said that he's going to be starting. Or not starting, but he's going to be in for the first week. And that I want to say that's about it. Because Calvin Ridley is suspended for the entire season. They also lost Russell Gage, so for the receiver core there. But they do have Kyle Pitts, who is a great tight end. He had a great rookie season last year, and I think he's going to continue to have a great one this year. I think he's going to do great, especially with Marcus Mariota or Desmond Ridder, depending on who they do play during the season. And going over to the defense, they have Grady Jarrett, who they just re-signed over the offseason. And secondary, they got AJ Terrell, who's a great DB there. So overall, I think the Falcons have a pretty decent team, but I think they're just in rebuilding mode at this point. Then new head coach Arthur Smith, and there's just a lot of question marks for the team where they stand right now, especially in a new system, not running Matt Ryan. So it's gonna be interesting to see what they do there. But as for this game, I have the Saints winning 21-18. I think it's gonna be a close one. Close, it's a NFC South division, rival. So I think it's gonna be close. There's a lot of, tension, but I think the Saints are gonna come out with this one in week 1. Now this matchup, which I think is gonna be pretty good, the Chiefs at the Cardinals. Now the Chiefs, they got Patrick Mahomes out, starting quarterback. I think it's going to be good. Running back, they got Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Ronald Jones, okay? Don't sleep on Ronald Jones. He did his thing a couple years ago with Tampa Bay. His starting job did get taken by Leonard Fournette after he got injured last season, but and then he kind of just never saw playing time again because Leonard Fournette was good, and I also suggest you check out the Leonard Fournette video that I did on the channel a while back. But Rojo is still a great running back. I think he can do his thing with the Chiefs, and I think they're building up another dual running back system, which I think is necessary to have in the league right now. Is that you need 2 running backs, especially with the rate that they do get injured. And if you have a great running back, I think you need another running back to just really accompany him. So I think it'll work with Rojo and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And then at receiver, probably the biggest hit is Tyreek Hill, who was their main target last season. Him going to Miami, him requesting the trade, maybe he just needed something new. And he went over to Miami. But the Chiefs still have a decent wide receiver core. They replaced Tyreek Hill with Juju Smith-Schuster. They also have Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and they also have Mecole Hardman, who are 3 pretty good wide receivers there. And then at tight end, obviously Travis Kelce, who I think will probably get most of the main targets for the team, just mainly because he's a trusted target. Him and Mecole Hardman are probably the biggest 2 returning targets for Patrick Mahomes, and Juju and MVS are 2 new targets. So I'm not sure how Patrick Mahomes is going to be distributing the ball, but I can expect him to kind of lean towards giving it to Travis Kelce a little bit more, or Travis Kelce a little bit more, because I think he's just that trusted of a target. The offense line still is pretty good. I still think Patrick Mahomes is going to be running for his life, but that's just in his play. So I think overall the offensive line is still pretty good. And then on the defensive side of the ball, the defensive line is great. The secondary is pretty good. They did take a hit over the offseason with the loss of Tyrann Mathieu, so that's definitely going to hurt them. But Snead is a great defensive back. And I believe they still have Chris Jones on the defensive line. Like, overall, I think they have a great team. And I think they could still make the playoffs. But I don't think they're going to be winning the AFC West, because I think that's the Chargers there in the AFC West. But I think the Chiefs will still have a really solid season. And then with the Cardinals, starting quarterback Kyler Murray, obviously they're going to be having hard knocks mid-season or during the season. I'm not sure. I want to say it's mid-season, though, because they're starting pretty later into the season. But, yeah, Cardinals got starting quarterback Kyler Murray. In the running back position, they did take a hit with Chase Edmonds, but they still have their starting running back in James Conner. And then at the receiver core, they have a new addition in Marquise Brown, with trading for him in during the draft process, and I think he's going to be a great wide receiver to add there. Definitely adds more speed to that wide receiver core. Rondale Moore, Andy Isabella is not with the team either. But he's more of a role player, special teams player, so they didn't really play on that much at the wide receiver position. And then obviously the loss of D-Hop for half of the season is definitely going to hurt them. He was a really big target for Kyler Murray. So he's not going to be starting in this game. So their main two wide receivers are most likely going to be Marquise Brown and Rondale Moore. The offensive line is pretty decent. Going on to the defense side of the ball, having J.J. Watt still there is great to have him there. And their secondary is pretty average. Budda Baker at safety. Overall the Cardinals aren't too bad. I think they can still make a place for themselves as to why they should be in the playoffs. However, I don't think they're going to be in the playoffs. But they still have a case. They still have an argument to make the playoffs. So I think they're going to be a great team, and I think this is going to be a great matchup. So I can't wait to see this one. But I do have the Chiefs winning this one 29-26, just because I think they are the better team. Now next, we have the Giants at the Titans. Now on the Giants side of the ball, on offense, you have Daniel Jones, who has just declined his fifth-year option, so it looks like it's going to be his last season there. Let's see what he does there. Try to work hard to get another contract, maybe. So let's see what he does. At the running back position, they do get Saquon Barkley back from injury, back and healthy, so can't wait to see him play. Wide receiver, they got Kenny Golladay, who's doing nothing after he got the bag. He got the bag and then dipped. Okay, let's be honest. Let's be honest with each other. Okay, let's be honest with ourselves, Giants fans, Giants organization. You gave Kenny Golladay the bag, and he stopped trying. Okay, he would never on the Lions though. He would never on the Lions. I'm just saying, on the Lions he would be top 5 wide receiver, but instead he wanted to leave. He went to New York, and now look at him, rich, but he's not playing wide receiver. Okay, so just those training camp videos are pretty horrendous. Okay, that's not the Kenny Golladay that I knew in Detroit. Okay, that's not the same Kenny Golladay. Maybe that's a clone of Kenny Golladay. Maybe that's not the real Kenny Golladay. Okay, let's spread the conspiracy theory that that's not the real Kenny Golladay. That's a clone Kenny Golladay. Okay, we all know it. The Giants try to clone Kenny Golladay, and that's why he's not going for the ball. It's like a glitch in the clone. Like, he's not going for the ball at all, and he's not like running through his routes. So it's just a glitch in the clone, because he's just an early model or something like that. Okay, and then another wide receiver, Kadarius Toney, he had a decent rookie season. He actually did better than Kenny Golladay. Kenny Golladay was getting paid to do nothing, and Kadarius Toney was doing his thing before he got ejected and suspended. So I think he's gonna do great. if he just matures as a player, I think he's going to be a really great wide receiver. And they have Sterling Shepard. How could I forget Sterling Shepard and not Darius Slayton, just Slayton. Or is it Darius Slayton? Yeah, it is Darius Slayton. Or is it Darius Slayton? I don't know his name. For some reason, it's like drawing a blank. But they got Slayton and Shepard, two really good wide receivers. Great to have them there. Offensive line, horrendous. Okay, you just gotta move on from that. Just horrendous offensive line. They did lose Evan Ingram to the deal with Jacksonville, and I don't think that was that big of a loss for the Giants. It kind of looked like they were just phasing him out of the system anyway. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they did get Kayvon Thibodeau, but I don't know if he's going to be playing in this one. It did look like a pretty bad knee injury there in the preseason, so I don't think he's going to be starting in this one. But that was about it. They did upgrade the offense line, though. Can't forget, they did get Evan Neal. So hopefully he does boost the offensive line, but from the looks of it in the preseason, he hasn't really been doing that well. But we'll have to see. Again, it's kind of hard to tell with offensive linemen from the rookie season. There isn't much gray space. It's either they're really good or really bad. So can't really decide if he's gonna be a great player or not just from the preseason. But overall, I mean that Giants defense isn't that good. James Bradbury is probably their best defensive player. But yeah, not much to add there for the Giants. And then as for the Titans, they get Ryan Tannehill starting at quarterback. Malik Willis looked good in the preseason, though, by the way. He looked really good. Shout out Malik Willis. Okay. Should have been on the Lions, but, we'll leave it there. Okay, because we still got Jared Goff. Okay, Jared Goff is the best quarterback in the league. But to be honest, Jared Goff is not good, but okay, should have had Malik Willis, okay? But he looked good in preseason. I think he's just maturing more in his playing time, sitting behind Ryan Tannehill. I think it's going to be great for the Titans and for him. And then at running back, the king is back, okay? In the words of J. Cole, okay? The Ville is back. The king is back. Derrick Henry running in there, backfield, power back, best running back in the league. I think he was still top 5 in rushing lead, like in rushing yards, and he was out with the ACL injury like half the season. Okay, so he's that good of a player. And he's gonna come back and do it again. Okay, now it does kind of worry me, mainly because ACL injuries are interesting. Okay, because you could be really great. Okay, you could do a KD bounce back, have one of the greatest seasons of your career, right? Or you could do Chase Young, re-aggravate it, and, I just hit the mic. Re-aggravate it, and then, not do so good. Or not do too good. So, it depends. Okay? And I am kind of worried. I do have him in one of my fantasy leagues, so I think he's going to be great. I really hope he is. I hope that he doesn't get injured. I need him to get like 3,000 rushing yards this year. Because, he already hit 2,000. Might as well just hit 3,000, okay? Offensive line is great. Shout out Taylor Lewan. Their podcast is great. Busting with the Boys. They're great. Taylor Lewan, great player. Offensive line, amazing. Okay. Defensive side of the ball. Defensive line, pretty good. I think they just need to work out some kinks there. Secondary going into the DBs, pretty decent. Okay. Nothing too special in my opinion. Safeties there, yeah, nothing too special. Linebackers, nothing too special. Their defense, I think, is definitely the weak link, okay, compared to the offense. So we'll have to see what they do there. But I think it's still going to be a great player. Or it's still going to be a great team. I don't know why player, but it's still going to be a great team. But I think the Titans are going to come away here with the dub. It's the Giants, okay? So I think the Titans are going to be winning 24-15. Yeah, I think very well Titans are gonna be able to beat the Giants. Now next we have the Green Bay Packers going up against the Minnesota Vikings. Now Green Bay, they're doing Green Bay things, okay? Aaron Rodgers coming back off the ayahuasca, okay, and he's refilled, okay? He's that guy, new deal. After threatening to leave again, okay. That one hurt though. That one hurt probably the most as a Lions fan, because it really looked like he was gonna leave. We were, me and my Bears friends, we're cheering on the downfall of the Packers, just for him to be like, "No, I'm coming back." Like what? You said you're coming back after all that, getting us hype, okay? Just for that. So that one hurt a lot. That was a sting in the back. I was like, oh, really, Aaron Rodgers? Just when I was starting to like you, you're just gonna go back, But our running back, starting Aaron Jones, backup AJ Dillon, another great running back duo. I think it's gonna be great. Wide receiver core, biggest hit was Devontae Adams. Let's be honest. That one probably was the biggest hit to Aaron Rodgers though. Like it was like he came back and then they were like, yeah, no. So we know you were talking about getting wide receivers, but we're just gonna go ahead and just trade the best wide receiver on the team for first round picks and stuff. So yeah, thank you for coming back, but no Devontae Adams. And as a Raiders fan, that one I was very happy. I saw that news, I was jumping up and down with glee, okay? Because I was like, this is W, okay? W finesse, W steal, because the Packers can't draft, okay? Let's be honest, okay? They can't draft. So, we left them with that first round pick, and they got like 2 defensive players from Georgia that are not going to contribute to the team whatsoever. So, we're like, oh, that's a fleece. It's a finesse, fleece, everything. Raiders won that trade, okay? But now moving on, wide receivers, they got Allen Lazard and Christian Watson, rookie, coming out of North Dakota State, I want to say. Yeah, North Dakota State, I want to say. He's coming out of North Dakota. Same college as Carson Wentz, that's all I know. And I think he's gonna be good. From the reports of Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show, the wide receivers, the rookie wide receivers are doing their thing. They're getting back. They got Randall Cobb, and so they're kind of going through their progression. Tight end Robert Tonyan, I think he's gonna be great. I believe he had an ACL tear. I want to say he had an ACL tear last season, but it was a really major injury because he was out for the majority of the season. So. That's definitely going to be a big return for the Packers. And then on the defensive side of the ball, the loss of Zadarius Smith. I want to say the loss of Zadarius Smith because, or did he sign back with the team? Or did he go to the Ravens? Which I forgot about that too in my Ravens breakdown. I was like, bro, Zadarius Smith is a person. Oh yeah, he's with the Vikings, not the Ravens. He signed with the Ravens, then he went to the Vikings. But, so, It's a big one because, the Packers facing the Vikings. But yeah, Zadarius Smith, big hit to the team. But they still got Preston Smith. They still got Jair Alexander at corner. Luckily for the Lions, they still got Kevin King at corner. That's an NFC North joke. If you're an NFC North fan, you know Kevin King, and you want your best wide receiver to line up against Kevin King because Kevin King is going to get dusted, okay? But Jared Goff is the only quarterback that can throw an interception to Kevin King. Now, that defense is still good, okay? I got them on my fantasy team. I think they're going to be a pretty good defense, especially for this week. Actually, no, not especially for this week. I think I benched them because I have the Chargers defense, and the Chargers defense just stacked. So, but, the Vikings offense is good. Okay, granted they do have Kirk Cousins. It looks like it's going to be Kirk Cousins' last year there, unless he does something to really step it up, in which I think he would. I think he can. So yeah, you got Kirk Cousins there, quarterback. Running back, you got Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison, who are 2 pretty good running backs. Or Dalvin Cook's a great running back. Alexander Madison's a great backup running back to make that duo running back core. And then wide receiver core, you got Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, the new addition of Jalen Reagor. It's going to be great. Tight end Irv Smith, who had a pretty decent season last year. And then on the defensive side of the ball, obviously what I just spoke about earlier, Zadarius Smith coming off on that edge. They still got basically everybody the same, I want to say. As last year they didn't really add much to the defense. So still got Patrick Peterson. They still got their players. I believe they still have Rashad Breeland. So overall, the Vikings defense kind of stayed the same. But as for this game, I have the Packers getting the dub, 26-25. I think it's gonna be really close because it's a division rivalry, and I think Justin Jefferson can only get better, and the Packers took a big hit, so I think it's gonna be a toss up in the air. So I got the Packers win this one, 26-25. Now next we have the Raiders at the Chargers. Now, as a Raiders fan, like I just said previously, that Davante Adams trade was amazing. This is probably the greatest fleece of all time. Let's be honest. Okay, Packers can't draft, so Davante Adams going to the Raiders is like basically free. Okay, basically free. Infinite money glitch, if you will. Okay, now quarterback, you got Derek Carr. Derek Carr, top 5 in passing yards last season. They made it to the playoffs. Ended up losing to the AFC champions, the Cincinnati Bengals. And it was close. So they can definitely hold their own against some good teams. And that was without Davante Adams. And I think they're going to do great. Running back core. Now, running back core is going to be kind of questionable, okay? So, they have Josh Jacobs still starting, I believe, but they did decline his 5th-year option. But I think Josh Jacobs is going to do his thing. He said that he only wants to play with the Raiders, and I think he's going to be, I think he's going to be running, okay? He's going to be running to get that new contract with the Raiders. Obviously, new coaching, Josh McDaniels coming in from the Patriots. So instead of Rich Bisaccia, who was the intern head coach in the shoes of John Gruden, or in the vacancy left by John Gruden after the drama that went on with him. I already spoke about that. And then the new coaching, it looks like they're kind of leaning towards not having Josh Jacobs in, but I think Josh Jacobs, he really wants it. He wants to play with the Raiders, so I think he's gonna play like he wants to stay with the Raiders, so he's gonna do that. But as for the backup running back, kind of a question mark. They released Kenyon Drake, and he ended up going to the Ravens, which was good. I think that was a really good signing because Kenyon Drake is really good. He's a solid backup running back. But they don't really have much. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do there. Wide receiver, obviously, Davante Adams. Hunter Renfrow had a great season. Who else? Who else do they have? I mean, that was basically... drop my pencil. That's basically about it. Because then they lost Zay Jones to Jacksonville. And they lost Edwards. So they just cut Edwards. So... I mean, overall, the wide receiver room did take a cut, mainly because bringing in Davante Adams and signing to a new deal was pretty lucrative. So, it was going to be kind of hard to keep all those wide receivers. And then I tied in, obviously, Darren Waller, who looks like he's trying to come back and, do some things. So, let's see what he's going to do there. And then, obviously, Moreau, that backup tight end, he was pretty good. Defensive line, you still got Max Crosby. I believe they did drop Yannick Ngakoue, I want to say. And then, but they basically kept the defense line the same. The DBs, kind of staying the same. But they did let go, or actually no, they didn't let go, but they released they traded, not let go. That was the same thing. But, they traded Mullen. They traded Mullen over to the Cardinals, and he was a really great safety for us last year in his rookie season, and I don't know why they traded him. He was really great. But Trayvon Moehrig is a great safety who's still on the Raiders, so can't wait to see him play there. And then as for the Chargers, the Chargers going off last season, they could have made it to the playoffs if they just settled for a tie. They could have just settled for a tie, went into the playoffs, chill, they're chill like that, and they're in, okay? All they gotta do is just, take a knee, just settle for the OT, settle for the tie. But no, they wanted to go for the win, and they ended up blowing it, okay? So they didn't make the playoffs, but I think they're the best team in the league to not make it to the playoffs. And I think Justin Herbert, he's my number one candidate for MVP this season. And then in the backfield, got Austin Eckler, who I think is going to be great. Wide receiver core, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, who I think is going to do great. And at tight end, I guess overall that's basically the receiving core there. And then defensive line got a big boost. I'm sure they're going to be playing Khalil Mack at a flex end linebacker. So I'm sure Khalil Mack's going to be coming off the edge for Joey Bosa as well. So that's going to be a nightmare for some offensive lines, especially in this one. The Raiders' offensive line is not that good. So Derek Carr is going to be under a lot of heat in this game. And then in the secondary, obviously Khalil Mack as linebacker as well. And at DB, they got J.C. Jackson from free agency. And then at safety, they got Derwin James coming back healthy. And I think the Chargers are probably one of the best defenses in the league if Derwin James is able to stay healthy. So can't wait to see what he does, because he's a great player. He just needs to stay healthy. But as for this game, I have the Clippers winning. Not the Clippers. Did I just say the Clippers? Because I have LAC on my paper. I was thinking the Clippers. That's crazy. But I have the Chargers. Okay, the Chargers beating the Raiders 28-22. I just think that that pressure is going to be getting to Derek Carr a lot in the game, and he's not going to have that much time to give the ball off and have the plays progress. And on the defensive side of the ball, the Chargers offensive line is really good, and I'm not sure what they're going to be able to do to really stop it, or I'm not sure what the Raiders are going to be able to do to get around the offensive line, I should say. So really, I think the Chargers just have a better support system overall, and that's why they're going to be winning this game. Now next, with the last game, the Sunday night game, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Dallas Cowboys, and I think this one, it's a run back from last season. That was the first game, and for this one, I was it was a hard for me one. It was a hard one for me, right? Because if you look at Tampa Bay on offense, Tom Brady, he's looking good. That 11-day hiatus, but he's still looking good. Running back Leonard Fournette. They don't really have they don't really have a backup running back, so that kind of does worry me. Wide receiver Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, still there. Offensive line still great. I mean, they did take a lot of hits to offensive line. They did lose a lot of players, but it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt. And then defensive side of the ball. Defensive line is still great. JPP, Vita Vea, and then they did lose Ndamukong Suh, but they weren't really using that much. He wasn't really getting to the ball anyway. But they did lose him, and I think he's a big veteran presence there on the defensive line. And then at linebacker, they got Levante David and Devin White, who I think are probably the best. That's the best linebacker core that you can possibly have, in my opinion. And then at corner, I mean, they're doing their thing at corner. DBs are kind of their weak spots. But luckily for them, the Cowboys don't really have that good of wide receivers. They got CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup still. But yeah, overall, that's the rundown of the Buccaneers team. And then going over to the Cowboys. Cowboys got Dak Prescott playing at quarterback. And in the backfield, you got Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, good running back tandem. Then offensive line, pretty decent. Wide receiver core, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. They lost Amari Cooper in that trade to Cleveland, so that's definitely going to hurt them. I also forgot to report on that on the Browns. How did I forget that? I just keep forgetting. I just keep forgetting the moves that are happening until it's like the team that loses them. Cause I was talking about the Browns wide receiver core like it was nothing, but they got DPJ. So I was like, oh yeah, they only got DPJ. Bro, they had Amari Cooper this entire time. And I was just tripping. But yeah, basically, Dallas, I think it's still a pretty good team. Their defense, Micah Parsons coming off of a defensive rookie of the year season. And I think he's going to continue to progress on that. Trayvon Diggs looks like he's, he looks like he's kind of he looks like he's a 1 year wonder to me right now. As of right now, it's not looking that good. It's not looking good. Okay, because he's allowing like catches in practices, and I mean this was kind of apparent during the season. Everybody knew that he was kind of overrated just because of the interception count, but like his yards allowed were like horrendous. So everybody kind of knows that he can't cover that well. He can just get the interceptions, really. So we'll have to see what Dallas has done to really improve that defense. So there's a gaping hole there, and I think this could go either way in my scoring. So as of right now, I have Dallas winning 27-7, and I know that's probably the biggest hot take of this game, or of this video, not this game, but this video. I think that's the biggest hot take that I'll probably ever have. But I think I had Dallas winning last year too, and they ended up losing, but they only ended up losing by 3. But I got Dallas winning here 27-7. But Dallas's defense is terrible. Then I got Buccaneers winning 27-7. So this could go really either way. But I just have Dallas winning since it's just home field advantage. Maybe they can do something with that. So I got Dallas winning this one. Then next, the Monday night game, the last game of the week, we got Denver at Seattle. Okay, a homecoming of sorts for Russell Wilson coming back to Seattle after he went to the Broncos. And I mean, obviously having Russell Wilson there was great for the Broncos. They kind of had mediocre quarterbacks ever since Peyton Manning left, or Peyton Manning retired. So they haven't really had much to do with the quarterback, but now they do. Running back, they got Javonte Williams. There we go, Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. See, I'm a little rusty. Okay, this is the season's coming back. I'm a little rusty, but I'll be knowing these names by the end of the season. Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, great running back tandem. Offensive line does need some work, but they're not the worst. I think there's definitely an upgrade for Russell Wilson there at the offensive line, in the offensive line standpoint, because that Seattle offensive line was terrible. Okay, let's be honest. And that I think that's the main reason why Russell Wilson did leave, is just because the offensive line was not on par with what he needed. But the wide receiver core is also great. Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, just to name a couple there with Denver. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they kind of just kept everybody. Bradley Chubb looks like he's gonna try and have a comeback season. But they didn't really add anybody too special. But their defense did look like they were up and coming last season, and I think they can continue that run. And then as for Seattle, their starting quarterback is going to be Geno Smith over Drew Lock, who they got in the trade with Denver. And then the running back, Chris Carson, retired pretty late into the off season, or I guess pretty early on into training camp, and mainly due to that neck injury that he had during the season last year. He did get surgery on it, but it looks like, it was kind of career threatening. So he decided to hang up the cleats, and he's not going to be at running back there. So I believe Rashad Penny is going to be starting there, who isn't my ideal number one running back. Like, I wouldn't really want him to be there, but I think he's a decent running back behind Chris Carson. So we'll have to see what he can do there. Offensive line pretty bad. They did get Charles Cross in the draft, who I think was a really great fit for them, and hopefully they can do their thing with him. Hopefully he can start to boost that offensive line. The wide receiver core, they got Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, but that's about really it. They didn't really add much defensively. They didn't add much either. They still got Jamal Adams at safety. But I want to say that's about it for the Seahawks. After losing Bobby Wagner. But as for this one, I have Denver winning. Broncos country. Let's ride. Okay. I got them winning 23-20. Russell Wilson, he's having a comeback game against the Seahawks. Okay, he's like, this is what you're missing out on because you didn't give me a better team, and I'm going off. So boom, I got the Broncos winning that one. And that will be all for today's episode. Thank you for sticking around. If you actually listened to this entire thing from the beginning to the end, I'll try to leave the timestamps for each matchup, so then people can just skip the matchup that they really much want to listen to on YouTube at least. But if you're on the podcast version and you're still here through the entire thing, I do want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because this is a long episode. But I do want to thank you for listening all the way through. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and comment. And also share the video with anybody that you think would want to know about the week 1 predictions. Maybe if you're friends with a betting person, send this video out to them. Hopefully they agree with my picks. And then if you're on the podcast version, please give it 5 stars. That'd be greatly appreciated. And also leave a follow if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Again, that would also be greatly appreciated. But that'll be all for today's episode. Thank you for listening all the way through, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.